you listen to podcasts that sound like this? Hey, welcome back to the Super OK Podcast, where our audio sounds mediocre.
Or do you prefer podcasts that sound more like this? Crisp, clear, fun, easy to listen to, and full of awesomeness? Well, then you should check out Spoiler Country, hosted exclusively over at Spoilerverse.com.
Bridging to Geekdoms. I'm your host, Robert Slavinsky, and this is my Marvel Rewatch review of the MCU. So, what's going on? Today, I'm going to be talking about Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok came out in 2017, directed by Taika Waititi, starring Chris Hemsworth, Tessa Thompson, Cate Blanchett, Jeff Goldblum, and so many more. Now, this film, when it first was announced, I was excited about. Now, this is back when the MCU was still relatively, not new, but it was really finding itself. Because prior to this, the movies were still very cookie cutter, were still very, you kind of knew what to expect from them. But they wanted to change things up. You could tell that Taika Waititi and Kevin Feige and everybody wanted to change up what they were doing with the Thor character. They hadn't quite figured out what they were doing with him yet. So, as we were getting closer to the release of this movie, my excitement level was getting higher, and higher. The trailers I thought were fantastic. They were funny. They were comedic. All that jazz. Good time for sure. But I was worried that there would be too much of the comedy in this film. So we went, we saw it, we watched it, and I came out of the theater highly disappointed. The trailers prior to that movie coming out showed everything. All of the funny parts were shown in the trailers, in the TV spots, everything. So going in, there were minimal laughs because all of the comedy was already shown in the trailers and the TV spots and everything like that. All the promotional marketing was already showing everything. So I came out and I was like, man, come on. Not only that, but they tried too hard to make it a comedy. And some of the things that I really enjoyed about the first two Thor movies were the serious tone that they had. And I felt that they really screwed that up in Thor Ragnarok and just made it too jokey and started to make Thor a character that I didn't like. So I came out, was disappointed. Everybody was so excited when that movie came out. Oh, they used Led Zeppelin music. Oh, look at how funny this is. Oh, he cut his hair. Oh, this and that. Oh, it was just, to me, it kind of diminished the character of Thor. And it kind of just was unfortunate. I didn't enjoy that. So that's what I felt coming out of the theater in 2017. Coming back to it in 2021... and sitting down and saying, all right, let's rewatch this for the first time since I saw it in theaters back in 2017. Let's take a look at it and see. And let's just see. Do I still feel the same? Or do I actually enjoy it? And to my surprise, I came out of watching this movie a couple weeks back and I was just blown away. I was like, wow, I actually really did enjoy that movie. Now, I kind of harken this back to a theory, an idea that I came up with back about 10, 15 years ago when I was really getting more into music. Now, I've been a pretty big Metallica fan most of my life. I kind of discovered them later in my life. I knew who Metallica was. I heard Metallica quite often growing up. My older brother would listen to it. But I didn't quite understand the journey that Metallica went on. And when I became about 17, 18, 19 years old, around there, I was really diving into music hardcore, and I was very much into metal. So, I'm listening to, Injustice for All. I'm listening to the Black Album as it's known. Master of Puppets. Those albums were fantastic. But then you start to see a major drop-off start at the Black Album. And it starts to drop off with Load and Reload, and then eventually Saint Anger comes out. And it's like, man, I want more Metallica. I want new Metallica music. So you get this new album, what was it, Death Magnetic. It was an all-right album. It wasn't great. But it still didn't have that feel to what old Metallica was. And I found myself going back and listening to Load and Reload, which are not nearly as bad as Saint Anger, and Death Magnetic is not nearly as good as Load and Reload. But those two albums also aren't nearly as good as Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning and all that jazz. So I sit there and I'm listening. I start listening to these two albums more. And my buddy asked me, he's like, why are you so into those two albums? I mean, they're not good Metallica albums. And I'm like, yeah, I really don't know. I think it's just that I really, really want good Metallica music. And we haven't gotten any for so long. So I kind of went back, and some of their meh stuff is sounding a lot better to me now, since what we've gotten since Load and Reload have been pretty shit. And I'm the reason why I went on that long journey here is because I think that's what happened with Thor Ragnarok with me. And it's not that we just have gotten shit from the MCU. I'm not saying that, because I did really like Infinity War. I enjoyed Spider-Man Far From Home. But we haven't gotten anything from the MCU. WandaVision, which is going on now, has been an okay series. You know, people are sitting there freaking out about how great it is. It's an okay series. It's not anything to write home about. It's nice that we're getting some Marvel content. But that's my point right now, is we just haven't had any Marvel content, or even good Marvel content, for like 2 years. And I think that's kind of why I'm looking at Thor Ragnarok and saying, I enjoyed it, because we haven't had anything, and I kind of forgot what the movie was and how it played out and everything. It was just kind of like, hey, I enjoy this movie. So I think that's kind of what happened with this. Now, what were some of my issues back in 2017? Like I said, I think it was too jokey. I felt it was too over the top. They kind of ruined Thor's character. They even Loki became too jokey. Rhymed. But some of the things that I thought did really well was the casting. Cate Blanchett was fantastic as Hela. Absolutely fantastic. And I really do hope that they bring her back at some point down the line, because I think she was fantastic in that role, and I think that she could do so much more with that role. You know, Jeff Goldblum, he was being Jeff Goldblum. I mean, look, nobody's going to sit here and say that Jeff Goldblum is like Daniel Day-Lewis level of acting, but you know, when he takes a role and he owns a role, it's damn good, and he does an amazing job with it, and that's what he did here. Tessa Thompson, fantastic as Valkyrie. Again, just one of those characters that I was excited to see, and it played out. I really enjoyed what they did with her character and how they move forward. So that's some of the things I really did like. But you know, like, even coming back and coming out and saying I enjoyed it, there's still a lot that I really do not agree with, and the biggest stickler for me is what they did to Thor. And then it's unfortunate that it continued. Now, Infinity War, when that came out, the Russo brothers, I thought, did a really, really cool thing with Thor. I think they really made him a character where they toned down the jokes that he had and the comedy from him in Thor Ragnarok and gave him his earnest and serious tone back in Infinity War. But then Endgame, they just regressed back and they just made him the joke of the film, and it was just disappointing. So, I'm hoping with the next Thor film, Love and Thunder, that they get back to that. But with Taika Waititi back in the driver's seat, are they going to do that? I really don't know. I think they're going to stick back and fall back into the old ways of Thor Ragnarok. And that's kind of disappointing, because I really, really, really loved the first Thor movie. Thor 2, I thought, wasn't terrible. I enjoyed that. I'm not going to sit there and say it's the best Marvel movie, but it's also not the worst. I think they understand the Thor character better in those two films than what they did in Ragnarok and Endgame, and most likely going to be how they handle him in Love and Thunder. But that's pretty much my quick rewatch and review. Again, I didn't hate the movie the second time watching it, not at least as much as I did the first time I saw it. But again, could that just be because I really haven't had much Marvel to watch over the last couple years? At least quality Marvel? You know, I mean, it's hard to judge against WandaVision because it's not completed. So you can't sit there and say, is WandaVision a good show or not? It's been all right so far. But until we see the culmination of everything that WandaVision is doing and building up to, I can't sit there and say, oh, WandaVision's the best thing I've seen in 2 years, and thank God for it. I can't do that. But with Thor Ragnarok, you know, sitting there, I sat back, I was like, well, you know, this isn't too bad. And I think that's the biggest reason why I'm going through this rewatch is because I miss Marvel. I miss going to the theater and watching these Marvel films and them building this big story. And that's why I'm doing a rewatch. So if you like this video, guys, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, follow me for more. I'm doing a whole bunch of these reviews, rewatches. I did Doctor Strange, so make sure you find that. It'll probably be up in this corner here. Make sure you check that out. But with all that said, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch all of you later. What's going on, guys? Did you enjoy this video? If you did, make sure you smash that like button. And for more, hit subscribe with that little notification bell. That way, you'll be notified every time a new episode drops. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all later.